With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you don't just get a great workout, you get a great perk out because your membership is packed with perks. For $1 down and $24.99 a month, you'll get perks like access to any of our 2,400 clean and spacious locations. Bring a friend anytime and both work out with tons of equipment that'll give you that big fitness energy. Relax in the Black Card spa and more. Work out and perk out with the PF Black Card. Join for just $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Join the judgment-free zone today. Deal ends Thursday, August 10th.
See Home Club for details.
What's going on, spectator tots? We had a lot of backlash last week after we opened by saying the Jared Lujan episode might be our best episode yet. Not from listeners disagreeing with us, but by former guests suggesting that we were playing favorites with the latest episode. And the truth is, it's totally true. We do play favorites because every new episode of Spectales is always our best episode yet. And this week is no exception. Hello once again, everybody, and thanks for listening to this latest episode of Spectales. I'm your mic'd up by mistake host, Jake, along with my friend and co-host, the rock this speculation church is built on, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Wow, speculating in church in one sentence. I guess you could say it's a religion. You can send your tithes to spectalespod@gmail.com.
Here's the steeple and here's all the people, right? Like that's...
Yeah, I mean, we hold court once a week, right? It's on a Wednesday. So, I mean, I get it. I like it.
If there was a holy day once every week, like Sunday is the Lord's Day and stuff. If there was a new comic book day, that's every Wednesday, right? This is the church of speculation.
Yeah, for us comic folk, I mean, I think Wednesdays, seriously, man, I look forward to Wednesdays, for the comic books. I love to read comic books. I love the artwork in them. I hope we add to people's Wednesday, just like the comic books add to mine. So yeah, so we're the Wednesday Church of Spec.
Exactly. And you've got the beard, so you could do the Moses thing where you're like, let my people go. If
my comic people read.
Yeah, exactly. For all you newbie listeners out there, thanks for checking us out. Spectales is a comic book podcast where Jesus and I ask comic collectors and creators, what's your grail tale?
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
So this week's episode, Jesus, we've got comic writer and host of the Creators on Comic podcast, Jordan Patrick Finn. And I want to tell everybody, so he comes into this thing. When we talked to him, he came into it and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if my Grail tale is going to be up to par." The whole. And then what did he do, Jesus?
Man, well, just to say this, that I really enjoy it and I really like it because he hit close to my heart. He does what I do every single day. He underpromised and over-delivered. And that's what I try. That's my mantra right there. Under-promise a day and then over-deliver it.
Yeah, no, that is not just a mantra, but I can tell that's what you live by because that's how it always is.
Yeah, I say I'm not going to put pants on today, then I end up putting on some pants and boom, I just over-delivered
today. So along with what we're dropping for this episode today with Jordan Patrick Finn, we are also dropping another episode, a exclusive episode over on our Patreon. It is our Floppies episode. Floppies is our Patreon exclusive show. We come out with one once every month. You can go over to patreon.com/Spectales or just search Spectales over on Patreon and you can find us. We are dropping our Thor movie review,
also known as the Jima review.
Oh, the
Floppies.
The Jima review. Yeah, because we're getting into Journey into Mystery Annual number 1. Now, I don't want to, no spoilers, no spoiler. But if you know anything about this show, we talk about that book all the time. We even talked about it on this week's episode, actually, because we recorded the episode prior to seeing the movie, and then we saw the movie. So now we got to talk about all of that. And we do it in the latest Floppies episode, which is exclusive to Patreon. So you got to go over there and subscribe for $3.99 a month if you want to get a hold of those exclusive episodes. But we got other stuff to talk about. What else are we reminding people about this week?
Oh, man, this week we get to remind everyone about the King Size annual episode that will be dropping on Wednesday, July 27th. Write it down, take a picture, July 27th And we're including multiple new and returning guests, and also my favorite, the huge giveaway.
The giveaway? Can we tell anybody about the giveaway or what we're giving away?
Do you want to do that?
No, I don't think we should. You know what? Okay. That's next week. Next week. That's next a tease. Week. Next week. That's a tease in the biz. So you're going to have to wait to tune in next week, July 20th, a week from today, if you're listening to this on drop day, which is Wednesday. But July 20th, we are going to, in that episode, we're going to give you all the juicy details about what you can look forward to in the King Size Annual. But for now, you'll just have to make do with another astounding feat of comic podcastery. So let the race to converse with the colorist commence, and may the odds be ever in our favor. This is episode 52.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectators, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Hello and welcome back to Spectales, the neatest podcast on this side of Cybertron. This week, Jesus and I are joined by an award-winning comic book creator and host of the addictive Creators on Comics podcast, a dude so cool, he has 3 names. Jordan Patrick Finn. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm honored to be here. I'm stoked that you guys invited me on. Your show is great, and it's very exciting to talk to you both.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan, for joining us on this side of, I guess, what was it, Cybertron?
Oh, don't act like you don't know where Cybertron is.
Wait, who's this third mysterious voice?
Yeah,
who's this person that needs to introduce themselves?
Oh, yeah, Jesus, say who you are.
Oh, man, I'm the bearded wonder. There needs to be a jingle whenever I say that or something.
The bearded wonder. We have to have a jingle. Yeah, we'll put something
jingle
together.
Could just be like
quick.
Some scratching sound or something.
Yeah. I think I could do that. Nah, I'm not gonna do it right now.
Yeah, well, no, we'll have to. Yeah, we'll put that into post production and we'll get that all cleaned up for you.
We'll do it in post.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live, Jesus. So Jordan, first, again, thanks for joining us. But there's a lot of interesting things to talk to you about, and it's weird how things worked out. So last week we had Jared Lujan on the show, which Jesus and I had kind of talked to you about briefly. We had been trying to get him on for a few months, and it finally worked out, and we got him to come on board and talk to us. But before that, like, we had heard your podcast where Jared was on with, who was he?
Jordan Clark.
Yes, Jordan Clark. I wanted to say Jordan again, but I was like, no, Jordan's on our show.
There's 2 Jordans.
That part was confusing. As soon as they started recording the episode, and Jared's like, all right, so Jordan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, wait, don't talk to me. Oh, wait, no, there's another Jordan. Right, got it.
So we had heard Jared on your show right before we recorded, but your show with Creators on Comics is something that Jesus and I passed back and forth between each other. He had originally showed it to me. Jesus, I'll give you the credit.
I win.
Okay, it's not a race here.
Always a competition on this show.
Well, we had heard your show, and then we had gone back and forth over just how much we really, really loved the format. And for those of you listening who aren't familiar with Creators on Comics podcast, basically Jordan, he sets up a conversation between 2 creators, and then he sits back. He basically does the opening and then the closing, right? And then the rest of it is just them talking to each other, which is incredibly interesting. The show that you just dropped this week, I think it was Tuesday. Was it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday. Every second Monday.
Every second Monday. So that one was also really intriguing, and there's a lot to talk about. I think first question though is how you decide who talks to who on your show.
That's a very difficult question to answer. I just go with the flow, I guess.
Okay.
Recently, my podcast partnered with Platform Comics, which I don't know if all listeners or even if you guys are aware of Platform Comics, but it's it's this website, small company thing that just basically just runs 2 short comics competitions. Like twice a year, it'll run a competition. And right now, actually just launched yesterday is an early start, but next week is like a late start, is the 10K competition, which is like creators who sign up for this have 10,000 minutes, which is like just shy of a week. It's like 6 days, 20 hours or something like that, to make a 4 to 8 page comic. And they give you a prompt, they give you some dialogue and give you like whatever. But the point is, my show just partnered with Platform to try to, I wanted to reach a bigger audience. Platform wanted to have another podcast, like build like a sort of network going with their shows. So we teamed up, and because that contest is launching right now, I was like, oh, timely would be, it would be a good idea to get the previous winners of that show or of that contest to talk to each other. So last year's winner and the year before winner, I set the 2 of them up, and like you said, I sat back and relaxed as the 2 of them just talked to each other for like an hour.
Which was Hannah England and Massimiliano. Sorry if I'm butchering that name.
Massimiliano Grotti.
Thank you so much. Yes. I'm the worst.
No problem. It's a tough one. Right on the first thing he says to Hannah at the start of the episode is like, you can call me Max.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is great.
Yeah. So, but it's such a fun concept for a show, because I mean, Jesus and I have the audacity to think that listeners want to listen to us talking to creators. But in reality, creators talking to other creators, maybe we should have come up with that idea, Jesus. We are not that interesting.
But yeah, I mean, that was very, very audacious of us, I guess. But I just, I told Jake, man, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite podcasts. And I'm glad you said when the release date is, because I was always just like, happy when it came out and it was on my feed. Oh, look, another podcast, another episode. Let me listen to it. But just, listening to creators talk about the craft, and it is different from a fan talking to a creator, or even a interviewer, quote unquote, or a podcaster talking to a creator versus creator talking to a creator. It's a different, I feel like, language. It's a different
for sure.
setting. They have, very specific questions that we like sometimes goes over our head, or, things of that nature. But it's just really cool to listen to creators and at different levels too, talking to each other.
Yep.
So that's why I, mentioned it to Jake, because anything that's comic book related, any content or anything like that, I'm all about it. And I was looking for, content on craft and people talking about just how to do things. And that one came up, and I was like, all right, let me start from the beginning. And I think at that time, there was only like 3 episodes out, maybe 2. And I just
got on early.
Yeah, I got on really early. And it just kept getting better and like it get more interesting for me. So thank you for putting that out. But and for our listeners, if you guys haven't heard it or know about it, I definitely recommend it. Jake recommends it. I'm talking for Jake, but I think
I'll recommend it too, by the way.
Yeah, Jordan recommends it, and that's what matters the most on this episode. But for all of you out there who follow us on social media or on Twitter, when you drop links and things like that to your episodes, we've been retweeting them or whatever as best as we can as well.
Thank you very much.
We want to get that information out there. Not that we have a ton of followers either, but we have enough and people who listen to comic podcasts, so that's a good start, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the right audience for sure.
So with regards to your show, I want to kind of back up a little bit. So you get creators to talk to each other, but you are yourself a comic creator. You are an award-winning comic creator. Yes. You've made 3 books, correct? Graphic novels?
I've made 2 on my own, and 1 is an anthology that I have 7 short comics in.
Gotcha.
So it's a hefty chunk of me in the anthology, but it's not, it's not a solo venture.
It's a hefty chunk of me. I'm going to start using that around the house.
I like that. Sounds a little inappropriate, but I don't know.
But also not, right? Like there was nothing inappropriate about it.
A little wholesome is the way I meant it, but
well,
we'll take it however they want.
Yeah.
The books or the graphic novels are Death Kanji, Hellcraft, and the anthology is Dead Work Anthology, correct?
That's correct. You got them.
Nice. And I told you before we even got on that I'm kicking myself for having not read Death Kanji yet, because it looks incredible. Basically, the storyline is Lovecraftian samurai horror graphic novel. So I don't know, like I was trying to do like just that sentence there. There isn't one bad, there's no bad word in that whole thing.
It's a quick pitch, right? Lovecraft samurai horror. Like, yeah, it's very easy to say.
Yeah.
To just pick up on and be like, oh, okay, I recognize those terms. Okay, yeah, they're together. I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the first, but someone has told me I'm the first. So I'm just gonna claim that, right? The first Lovecraft samurai horror graphic novel.
Well, the thing is how do you say blood without actually saying blood? And you say Lovecraft samurai horror graphic novel. And that's
blood. That's Jake. That's right. Jake Sally right there.
Yeah, that's blood. I'm sold.
Yeah, and you said samurai. You said the magic word for me, man. So
yeah, I heard that on your last episode when you heard Samurai Sonia. You were like, I don't like Sonia, but I'll give this a shot.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a shot, and you know, it worked itself out. So I'm definitely gonna be looking into yours as well, because I mean, all that, you know, Lovecraft, horror, samurai, I'm all about it. So I definitely want to read that.
And, you know, just I noticed it is available both in print or digital at jordanpatrickfinn.com.
Oh, perfect plug. Thank you.
See what I did there? Oh, man.
I do. See, I appreciate it.
But for real, though,
he's going to send you the invoice. He's going to send you the invoice.
Yeah. I got to pay for that.
One book, please.
Let's see what I can do. It might not be the book you want, but you
said book. You didn't specify.
No, I will be digging into that as well. It really does kind of ring true for me. That's something that I would read. Hellcraft. So you mentioned though that's one that I should also maybe look into as well. Now I'm clicking on it and just reading this now, but it's a 100-page horror detective graphic novel based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. So another
yes. Again, I'm a bit of a one-trick pony so far in my writing. I do a lot of Lovecraft.
Hey, if you do the trick well.
Hellcraft was my first, and it was like my first venture into comics was like, I want to do like a gritty pulp detective like Lovecraft thing, and it's a little pulpy, it's a little bit campy, but they're like kind of direct adaptations of Lovecraft short stories. Where Death Kanji is like not directly. It's just like taking atmosphere and taking themes and motifs and stuff like that. Where Hellcraft is like specifically like, let's do Call of Cthulhu with my own character in it, doing like an investigation. So
nice. Well, that's not to drastically get off subject, but did you like the movie Color Out of Space?
Yes.
That I imagined you would have known it if you were a Lovecraftian fan. I was a big fan of it. Boy, that movie is a trip.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I was like the hugest fan, but I liked it. It was a good movie. I did get the opportunity to see it in a theater, which I was really happy about, because I think it premiered at TIFF, and I'm nearby Toronto.
Yep.
So I try to go to TIFF as much as I can, but basically all the tickets are pre-sold before they are available to the public, which is extremely annoying.
Yeah.
So I missed Color Out of Space like at TIFF, and I was really, really pissed. And then it was like in distribution hell, and like no one was picking it up or something. And I was like, now I'm never going to get to see this movie. Like it's never going to come out. It premiered at a fest. Now it's dead. And then like 6 months later or something, it just like had a small run in theaters again. And I was so happy to see it.
Well, I believe it's interesting to me. Again, now we're getting way off subject, but the distribution. Yeah, no, I brought it up. The distribution of that film, though, it ended up getting picked up by the exact same people who had done Mandy, I believe, to release it.
I'm pretty sure it did.
Which, in you know, if you follow, both of those films star Nicolas Cage, and they're both very intriguingly weird and messed up horror films. Very different films, but very weird. And the thing is it seems super obvious where you're like, why the hell did this, you know, because it was in distribution hell for a small period of time.
Yep.
And you're like, what the hell? But anyway, I digress. That's a good movie. If you like weird shit, go watch that. But if you like reading weird shit, which I've not read yet, but I'm thinking this is weird shit, right? Hellcraft is also available on jordanpatrickfinn.com. I might be buying multiple books this evening.
Oh, that would be very nice.
Nice.
Do you take Amazon?
Do I take Amazon? What do you mean?
Can I buy it on Amazon? Or is
I do no. I'm not much of an Amazon supporter kind of.
Oh, I see. Well, no worries.
Yeah, and my books are very specifically self-published. They are not attached to any publisher. They are in my own control. I'm a bit controlling in terms of like, the rights to my stuff. I don't want to be giving away the rights to my stuff. So, I'm really happy to sell things to people personally. Like, I only set up that website like pretty recently. Before that, I was like, just message me if you want to buy my books. Like, let's just have a conversation, and I'll just like maybe give you a discount and get you like exact shipping to your address instead of like an estimate of like it's probably this much to this country.
And everything ships from you in Canada.
Yeah, for me, they're all beside me.
Oh, yeah, you're with the books right now.
Yeah, right behind me. You see those boxes? Those are dead work.
Oh,
and then the rest are off camera, but they're all nearby.
Nice,
close to my heart.
That begs a question, at least for me. Obviously talking about craft, which is a big part of your podcast. But has any, have you gone to any publishers or any, what are they called? Yeah, like Mad Cave or Scout or whoever, or have they come to you?
I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain here. I spoke to one publisher about Death Kanji, and we had a couple meetings, and then ultimately they rejected the book.
Huh.
The one publisher. I feel like it was just the wrong format, because it's an 82-page graphic novel, and it's not really, you can't really split it up into separate issues, and kind of 82 is kind of small for a graphic novel. And I think most small publishers are looking more for issues and not for full collected editions. So it wasn't the right fit. They turned me down, and I was like, I tried once. That's a rejection. That's it. I'm done. The book is mine and mine alone. No one can have it now.
Well, and I know that there's a lot of collaborators on it, but I didn't see. Are you your own editor on this, or do you have somebody else do your edit?
No, for that I did my own editing. Yeah,
nice.
I do also edit. Like I am a accredited editor. I got my first SourcePoint Press credit like a month ago or something for editing. So
oh wow, congrats!
I do that quite heavily, and I'm happy with my own editing, I guess.
Good. Well, yeah. Why hire someone out if you already are?
Oh, it's one of the first things to go for most like indie level creators. But I like to just explain that like I'm not just like a goof just editing his own work. Like I do know what I'm doing. We're like on Hellcraft, I was a goof lettering my own work for the first like half of the book. I lettered it myself, and I was like, this is bad. I'm gonna hire someone.
Yeah, that was a topic today on Twitter about lettering and how lettering is like a big part, and sometimes if it's a indie book or
for sure
amateur book, I guess you would say, if they letter it themselves and they don't spring that extra cash to get a professional letterer.
It's one of the quickest things to tell. It's very easy to look at a book and be like, oh, they did bad lettering. Okay. And you have to sort of adjust to it and then keep on reading, but it can be very distracting, I think.
So that also brings a couple questions to mind for your podcast real quick before we get, because I know Jake is already hurrying me up.
I'm already itching for that first segment button, but no. Let's keep this about Jordan.
A couple questions I had were, one, with when you were listening as listeners, it seems like such, just free flowing conversation, which is really cool. Right.
Yep.
But do you prompt, do you do bullet points? Do you tell them, hey, talk about this stuff, or people want to hear about this stuff, or it's just a free flowing conversation?
Mostly it's just a free flowing conversation. I do prompt slightly depending on the episode. Some guests don't need it. So some guests are just like, okay to just talk to each other, and they just have a great conversation. It just flows, and I just sit here and the time goes by in a blink and the conversation's over. Other ones, there are more awkward pauses where they kind of run out of steam or forget what they should be asking each other, and maybe I might like interrupt them and say, hey, ask about this, or between halves. Again, I'm giving away the game here. I record each episode in 2 separate halves. We take a break time in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And during that break, we sort of regroup, maybe go get a coffee or go to the bathroom or whatever we need to do. But we regroup, and I double check with people. Hey, is there any stuff that like you really want to be asked about that you haven't got the opportunity to talk about? Or at that moment, I will also maybe throw in a prompt, be like, hey, you guys haven't talked about this. please someone bring this up at some point. So I'm not super heavy-handed or very involved very much unless I feel like there's something missing, and then maybe I'll throw like one prompt or two.
Awesome.
I think what's interesting about that answer is the layers of like, this is the man behind the curtain showing behind the curtain, kind of thing. Because it's the most interesting part. I constantly think about when listening to your podcast is that like you're just there. Like when I'm hearing them talking to each other, I know you're in the background. You're just listening. You're this like strange voyeur man behind the curtain.
I'm the first audience. But yeah, it can be a little awkward when I'm just sitting there, just staring at them as they're talking. And I'm like, yeah, good job, guys. Give them a little thumbs up on the camera. Be like, keep going.
Well, in reality, you're like the producer behind the glass.
Exactly.
Glass screen there. So, all right. So I'm sure we'll get back around to mentioning your work and your podcast, but let's dive
to do your show.
Yeah, we've got segments that we are required to do by law.
By Nebraska law.
But yeah.
Am I going to get to hear that sound clip you're going to play now?
Are you talking about this one?
Recent pickups.
We can't do it without it. We can't start the segment without it.
Yes, that exactly what I was talking about.
Nice. Yeah, the recent pickup segment. We'll go around the horn and each of us are going to drop a recent book or collectible that we recently got and how we like it, what we think of it. So, Jesus, you want to kick us off?
Yes, I will start off with this book. I think I've talked to you about this book a lot. It's been on my radar. It finally came out. I don't know, man. I just really like the artwork. It's so detailed. It's so I want to say the word is cluttered, but it's not cluttered. It's just cool to me. And I'm talking about Agent of World from Scout Comics, which is pretty cool. The audience can't see it, but I'm showing it to you guys. The writers Dennis Camp, Brodekin, Wordle, and Otsmain El How are part of the creative group. So, but, I mean, if you just look at the detail work,
the line work is insane on that. But I've been seeing
a lot of detail put into those panels.
Yeah,
I mean, look at this.
It's been flying off the shelves though. I've been hearing everybody saying that this thing is selling out or flying off the shelves at their LCS. I went to my LCS today and they did not have any. So I follow Dennis Camp. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm butchering it. But he said it's sold out, at least at the distribution level. And again, I mean, and we talked with this a little bit last week with Jared about, visceral artwork and stuff like that. And I mean, this is that, like, you can't go wrong with this type of artwork as far as like identifying it, right? Like, this is very unique artwork. This is very different. Some people might not like it. Some people might think it's cluttered in the negative connotation of the word.
It's giving me like strong like Mobius vibes, I think, from watching you flip through this thing.
Oh man, you're exactly right. That does have some Mobius vibes, which is awesome.
Yeah, it balances it, right? Like it balances it with this stuff right here, and then like boom, underneath you get this whole landscape. Like it's just really cool. I really enjoyed the book. It's really interesting. It like the storyline to me is reminiscent of Hitchhiker's Guide, kind of. I don't know. It just that's what I got from it when I started reading it.
And that's published by Scout, right? That's by Scout
Comics.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, Scout's been dropping some really killer stuff lately.
So that's my recent pickup, man. I'm really excited about it. I'm happy with it. I really like the artwork.
I have to admit, the first time I saw the title, and maybe this is just a product of where we've been in the last 6 months, my brain turned Agent of World into Agent of Wordle. And I was like, man, they got this out quick. That Wordle,
you still doing your Wordles every day? You still keeping up?
Yeah, my wife and I have a competition every day to do that. Yeah, we send it back and forth to each other. But she's also the type of person where like, if I get it, then she's asking for help. Like, what? Give me a hint. I was like, no, that's not the point.
No hints.
Yeah, you do it yourself. You earn this. So
I just get the green blocks with the first one every time. So I just stopped playing it.
Wow, you're amazing.
That's
you're
not
like Kim Jong-il at golfing.
Yeah, I mean, holes in ones is. I mean, I kind of do that thing too, but I'm not the golfer Jake is. So I don't want to put Jake on.
Played 18,
What you
shot 18, right? Like
Well,
that's
yeah, that's how. I mean, that's usually me.
That's the
That's what,
story.
same thing with bowling. 3:30. 3:30.
Oh yeah, that's what time I go to bed.
PM, right?
Yeah, my bowling score is the time I go to bed. I always bowl every night, and if I score like a 3:30, I'm like, I got to stay up for a long time now. No, that joke didn't even make sense. Jordan, would you happen to be able to save me with a recent pickup?
No one can save you, but I'll try. I was really wondering about what to plug here because there've been so many good books lately. I think I either mentioned on air or off air that I'm nearby Toronto and like TCAF just passed, so I like had a big haul from TCAF.
Nice.
But I think one that I want to talk about is a book that's not from TCAF, that's from Image Comics that I haven't seen anyone discussing, which is Friday.
Huh.
Friday by Ed Brubaker, Marcos Martin, and Monza Vicente. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. But basically how I have started taking in comics at this point in my life is not buying floppies anymore because they are too hard to store and too hard to reread. Whenever I want to reread something, I'm not going to go in a bag and board and undo the tape and whatever, dig through my long box. Like it's too much work. I'd rather just go to my shelf and have something with a spine there.
Nice.
So I don't go to my comic shop every week anymore, but I'll go in once every month maybe, and I'll talk to the guy who's been working there forever, who's like not the owner but close to it, where he just like runs all the day-to-day operations, and we've kind of become friends. And I'll just ask him, I'm like, hey man, you know what I like point at a book that you think I should read. And he'll usually point out like some horror book because he knows like I'm deep into horror, and he'll point out like some of the recent stuff has been like Something is Killing the Children, and like what's that other Tinian one, the End of the World one? Oh, the House on the Lake. Nice House on the Lake.
Nice House on the Lake. I like
so
that
he
one.
always recommends like horror stuff like that. And he was like, you know what, this isn't straight up horror, but like it's mystery and it's detective, and I feel like it's up your alley. And he pointed out this book, Friday. And from what he told me, which checks out on the back of the book, is that this won an Eisner for Best Digital Comic, I think last year. And I believe the story was, I'm paraphrasing and I might be wrong. Some listener might be able to correct me. But I believe it was like a digital only like charity event exclusive thing that ended up being the best digital comic of the year, according to the Eisners. So then they were like, oh, let's put it in print so more people read it then. So Image like picked it up. I don't think they were involved initially, and then they printed it, and it's a bit smaller than normal US comic size. It's a little bit shorter. I think it's like 6 by 9 inches.
Yeah,
but it's this little detective adventure small town book. It's sort of like a Hardy Boys mystery kind of thing, but like slightly grown up. It's like, yeah, what if kid detectives like just got to the age where they stopped really being kid detectives? So it's like they're like first year of college, like mystery solving duo or whatever, and some stuff has happened in their backstory that gets explored through the comic, and it was really, really good. And I wish more people would read it, because everyone I talk to about it is like, I've never heard of that. Brubaker did a what is that?
Yeah, I'm looking it up myself. It's so the full title looks like The First Day of Christmas. Am I looking at the right one?
Yeah, that's book 1, The First Day of Christmas. Yeah, I don't think book 2 has been out yet, but I haven't been to my shop in like a month, so maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope I'm wrong. I'm dying for volume 2 of this thing. It's really good.
I'm not seeing a... Wait, what's this? Is there another one? No. Okay, so I'm not seeing a book 2 just yet, at least from what I can see online. But the storyline looks pretty sweet. It doesn't... I'm not seeing a lot of art here to look at. The sample.
Here, I'll flip some pages open for you on camera at least.
Oh yeah, well, at least one of us will get a benefit, not the listeners. But all right, cool. Looks solid. Ooh, I like that train. Big train guy.
Big train guy over here.
Big train guy. Yeah, there's a couple pages, enough to get the flavor, I think.
Yeah, well, that I think that looks good. Listeners, everybody who really benefited from the last 30 seconds of what we just did. Sorry. The art for the book Jordan's talking about, Friday, looks amazing. And that is probably my favorite part about this segment is I always learn about something new that I need to go and read. Because when it comes to comics, everybody knows you just can't read them all. Right. But you can.
No way.
Recommendations tend to be the way I find new books. And this recent pickup segment, if we didn't have such an awesome intro, it would be the recommendation segment. Because that tends to be what happens, at least for me here. And segueing there, my recent pickup happens to be a book that was recommended to us last week by Jared Lujan. So this is Mindset. This is Vault Comics. Jared mentioned it. He's like, hey, this is one we should look out for. And it had dropped last week. And he highly recommended it. Or 2 weeks ago from when you're probably listening to this. And I've started it. I was reading it just before we jumped onto the show, and it's pretty interesting. So it's Zach Kaplan and John Pearson, and the art is super, super very Department of Truthy. Which that was one of my favorite parts about Department of Truth, or it is one of my favorite parts. I guess it's an ongoing series, which I still read. But this one, Jesus, would you say, because you got it too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just showed it to Jordan. I got both A and B covers, which are pretty cool.
Oh, A and B covers, huh?
This is the one to have. If you don't have this cover right here, I don't know what you're doing. So do you have this cover, Jake? Oh, I didn't.
I bought the last one on the shelf. Okay, I got the one I could get. It was the last one there, and I was just happy that it was still around long enough for me to pick it up. But it looks really. It's Department of Truthy, but it's very techy, right? It's like tech startup.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tech startup, and it's also conspiracy theory. And I guess the question I have, because I do see that with the artwork, it's very Department of Truth is a very descriptive way of how to put it. But is that like, because I feel like that style kind of puts you in a conspiracy theory mindset, right? Like it's like, are you in a dream? Or you
don't know what you're seeing. If you're seeing, you're seeing is actually really there, or it's got almost like a lens over it where you're not sure whose eyes you're seeing it through here.
Yeah. And also the tone of it, right? Like the tone of it makes it look like dark, and I don't know, is it a flashback? Are we in the present time? Whatever. So my question too would be, is that type of, because at least for me, I feel like Department of Truth did the best with it, and they really like stretched it and pushed that type of artwork to its limit. I mean, there's some panels where you can't even like really see a face and what the reaction is to, the Starface man or whatever, right? Like it's just so crazy. But is that like going to be going forward a conspiracy theory type of artwork? So whenever you see a book like that, it's conspiracy theory ish, or like just that type of narrative or story.
I'm not sure that. I don't know. That kind of leads you to think that it Department of Truth is dictating series or books like this, which it may be a fallout of that. I don't know. When it comes to comic books, we've heard stories about people have been developing them for years before they actually ever get published. So it's completely possible that this style, this storyline was preconceived way before anybody knew about Department of Truth. Tinian is just a monumental writer right now where he can pretty much get whatever he wants done. I would imagine so, right? Like that guy he's got the Steven Spielberg greenlight power, right? In the industry where he just,
I would imagine so at this point. Yeah. Anything he wants to make can probably just go to the press.
Exactly. And I think that's probably why maybe we saw his first. So I don't want to take anything away from the artist or the creator here, the creators of Mindset, because it's possible they had an idea at the same time, separately in a different room where they weren't associated. But the thing is that they do share a lot of similarities. And I'm okay with that because they're both different stories and I like them both. But I don't think I don't know. I think it's just the same creative process. It is a blurred lines kind of art.
Yeah, like I don't think it's bad. Like I feel like the connotation was that it was bad. I'm not saying it's bad. Like even
you
if,
made it sound like they were stealing the idea and that we shouldn't be reading their art.
and they should be taken out behind the shed and shot.
They should be beaten within an inch of their lives, brought back to health, and then beaten again. That's what you made it sound like.
That's the only way to do it if you steal from the tiny onion, man. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm not saying it's bad at all. Like if I put it that way, then I apologize because I wasn't being clear. I just think that
I didn't get that vibe. I think Jake's projecting.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you, Jordan.
It's always.
Can you come on next show too? The next one.
Yeah, I'll be here. This is my show now.
Jordan, you've picked sides and you picked the wrong one.
Yeah. He's the captain now, Jake. He's the captain.
Look at me.
No, I just think I like it, man. I like the artwork. You know, Department of Truth is one of my favorite. I was just taking a picture of the Baby Eater book that I got. I was like, oh man, I really like it.
That cover makes me uncomfortable. I will say that cover makes me very uncomfortable.
So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like, and I like that I guess too. I like that whenever you see that, you kind of immediately go into that mode. Like, okay, this is a conspiracy. I see where they're going with it. Like we talked about, it's very techy. So it's a tech conspiracy, you know, and I like that. Like it put me in that zone. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like, is that something? And at the same time, once you start creating rules, like, okay, this is the conspiracy artwork, you can flip it on its head now. Like people are going to be expecting it to be conspiracy, and now you can change it into something else, and you can use it. But I'm just thinking, like, now this is the second time I've seen it, and it does flow like that, does feel that way.
So you feel like Department of Truth set a precedence for what we see as conspiracy theory style art.
Yeah, and that's because of how good it is and how successful it's been. Right?
Well, like, you could say the same thing about Mobius with regards to, you know, a highbrow sci-fi art, right? Like that, you know, that immediately you think of the Incal, or maybe you go the other direction and you think of Akira, which is also brilliant art. But you could think of those two things and you're going to compare everything to that.
Yeah. And I hate
genre.
to, like, because it's recent, but I mean, you know, we are in the time of conspiracies. I'm sorry. Like we just are. So is that, like, again, just maybe, you know, 5, 7, 10 years from now, they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, that's like you mentioned the Incal, which is older, Mobius, which is older, but maybe this is a conspiracy artwork. Like this is it. You know, this is the kind of where it began, and let's see where they take it to. It doesn't always have to be the same. Like this is not the same. Like it's a shade of it. You know, it's a form of it, but it's not the same as Department of Truth.
You heard it here first. Jesus is starting a conspiracy theory of his own, that we are in a time of conspiracy theories, and that conspiracy theories now have an official art style. That's
correct. That's my conspiracy. You know, you guys don't choose not to believe it, then you guys are just listening to the wrong people.
Doesn't it
podcast, I should say.
I think it requires more than one individual to create a conspiracy. I thought it was like,
that's exactly what an anti-conspiracy person would say.
I think it depends how much tinfoil you have.
Yeah. Well, you can see that for those of you listening, Jesus is actually covered from head to toe in tinfoil right now.
I consider that a bona fide conspiracy theory. Then he's got the tinfoil to back it up.
There you go. Bona fide, triple stamped. You can't double stamp or triple stamp. And my beard has tinfoil in it.
I don't know where you got a Houston Astros tinfoil hat, but it's pretty sweet, man. All right. Well, now that we've concluded the recent pickup segment, we can move on to the very best segment of our show.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
That's right, the Grail Tale segment. This is the one where we act like Jordan and we sit back in our chairs and let him do the talking now.
Oh, that's a classic maneuver. You guys have judoed me. Oh, use my own
Mr.
tricks
Miyagi
against
you.
me.
Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, this is the most stressful segment of your show, I think, for me, where I'm like, I don't. What is my Grail Tale? Oh my God, it's a lot of pressure on me to carry this.
It's not a heavy show. Don't worry.
I feel the weight. Okay. It's heavy to me. But I'm not a big collector. Like I don't get a lot of collectibles. I say as on camera, you guys can see like all these D&D miniatures behind me.
Yeah, I see.
But in terms of like
yeah.
signed comics or like graded comics, like I don't really go in for that stuff, generally speaking. So it's hard for me to come up with my grail tale, which I've been thinking about and like stressing out. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? But I did have two small things I wanted to mention. They're not like huge tales where some of your other guests have gone on really interesting adventures.
Each have their own, so no pressure.
So they're very small. So I was like, all right, I might as well have two things ready since they're both letdowns. Like maybe together, they won't be. So one of these, which I don't have with me, which is upsetting. I went to look for it, but that'll be part of the story, I think, is around maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I think. Do you guys remember that limited series Witches by Scott Snyder and Jock and Matt Hollingsworth?
Yes.
That was a great horror comic.
It really was.
At the time that was coming out, Matt Hollingsworth was, I guess, very active on his Twitter, and he kept posting like all this experimental coloring that he was doing. And Matt Hollingsworth, by far, to me, is the best colorist in comics. I love this guy's colors so much. He's like a wizard. He's the best colorist. So I was really interested in everything he was posting, and he was posting all these different splatters and stuff. For the listeners who might not know, Witches had this very unique, interesting coloring style, which had like splatter like all over the pages, all over the art. It was like, I don't know, like something had gone wrong with the presses or something, and someone
super experimental
or something. It was very experimental.
Yeah.
Yes. So he kept posting like all the tests that he was doing for that, and at one point he posted this like ambient, interesting looking swooshy purple art, which was like soap bubble stretching kind of, but like more saturated. It was just like kaleidoscopic color and just beautiful. And it was just like a color test that he was just doing with paint. And he posted it just to see, I don't know, to see how many likes he would get. I don't know. I'm not in his mind. But I immediately like saw it and was like, can I buy that from you? That is like beautiful. And it's like physical because he uses like oils and paints and stuff to do these tests. And he was like, I mean, yeah, I guess. He's like, it's not anything, but like, I don't know, if you want it, yeah, I could ship it to you if you want to pay for it. So he did that. I sent him some money, and he shipped me this beautiful ambient coloring. Like I come from a musical background, so I compare a lot of visual art to musical terms in my head and in my speech. So I'm like, oh, it's like post-rock ambient, but a visual image.
Oh, that's awesome.
If like a good "This Will Destroy You" track was like a painting, it's like that's what it is to me.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I got that, and he was nice enough to ship me a bunch of like extra stuff with it. I think he sent me like a signed copy of Witches 1, and like he sent me a bunch of the actual splatter that he overlaid on top of some of the pages, which I ended up just donating to my local comic shop. I was like, I don't know what to do with these. Like, I'm not going to hang up splatter on my wall. So like, I don't know if you guys can sell these, or if you just really like them and you want to keep them in the shop, like, here you go, you can have them.
Wait, so hold up. You also you have a signed copy of Witches 1?
I think I do somewhere. I don't know where it is. I moved a year ago and I lost like a bunch of my stuff. It's all in boxes somewhere. I haven't unpacked everything properly.
Oh, it's a tragedy tale. Dang.
Is that something to spec on?
Spec on, no, but like I'm just a big Scott Snyder fan, so I like a lot of his. I like all of his stuff. A lot of his stuff. Who likes a lot? I like everything. If Scott Snyder touches it, I buy it. For the most part. So
yeah.
Anyway, but sorry, the artwork though is also, so the fact that you reached out to him, which was probably really interesting to him or unique to him, because he didn't consider it art. He thought it was a part of his process, or it was a part of his process.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet though.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a nice interaction to just get the chance to speak with him. Basically by doing that, he like opened up his direct messages to me, and we just like had a talk about comics, and I was like, very happy to talk to one of the people who I consider the pinnacle of their position in the industry.
How big was this piece of art?
Oh, it was small. I think it's like an 8.5 by 11, like printer paper size piece. Yeah.
And you got it framed and stuff?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. He sent it to me. He like went to a dollar store and bought cutting boards, like plastic cutting boards. That's how he shipped it to me, like taped up in the middle of 2 cutting boards.
Really? That's cool. Yep. That's interesting.
He said that was the cheapest way to do it. I was like, yeah, I mean, $2 to like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the cutting boards were cheaper than cardboard?
I guess so. I don't know. He is in a, I mean, I don't know if I should be giving away like the country that he's in, but he's not in like continental US. So he is overseas somewhere. So I don't know what shipping is exactly like in terms of where he lives.
Well, I mean,
or lived. That was like almost a decade ago.
Yeah,
so
based on Google, he's from California, but that may just be where he was born. I'm not sure. But that, I mean, that is interesting that you bring that up because we don't talk colorists much on our show. I mean, we get heavily into the artwork, the line work, and the writers, but the colorists do make a massive difference on a project.
Yeah, and that was the second question I had before Jake cut me off earlier before our segment. The question I had was, I know you've had like writers and artists, but are you going to have editors and colorists and letterers and stuff like that on the show?
The very short answer is yes. I'm going to have all those things. I do have an episode scheduled to record later. It got postponed because of circumstances, but we're recording an episode with 2 publishers, 2 indie comics publishers, the guys who run those publishers are going to have a chat. And I do have a couple editors that I want to reach out to. Letterers is obviously important to me. And like you said, colorists, all of these people are really important in terms of making comics, in terms of the entire process. I do want to represent every part of it. I just haven't had the right people lined up to pair up for an episode, I guess. Mostly when I am looking for guests, it's a lot of writers and a decent amount of cartoonists. Like I barely even get artists like trying to discuss their work, I guess. Artists are all super insular, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know if they feel like they don't have something to talk about, but I think they absolutely do, which is why I've tried to feature them as much as I can.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like for some reason, I always feel like artists are like, what do you want me to explain? I draw the thing, yeah,
exactly. It's like, I get the script, I do the work.
Yeah,
I pass it on. I have another script. I can't spend an hour talking on a podcast. I have to do this page.
Well, I know I completely agree with you with regards to how talented Matt Hollingsworth is, but I would be remiss if we didn't shout out. We've never had him on the show, but he's been kind of circling as somebody we've always wanted to get on, and that's colorist Chris O'Halloran. So he's worked with A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, Hellboy, Time Before Time. Like he's been on so many projects that we've read and talked about on our show that we're big fans of, including Ice Cream Man as well. So he's worked with a couple of artists that we've actually had on our show. It's just one of those interesting individuals where it's like, man, like I've read so much work that he's done, and it's just one of those things where the colorist sometimes tends to get left in the background.
Okay, Jake, I have a challenge for you.
Oh, what's that?
The first one of us to get Chris on their podcast wins some kind of prize. Jesus will have to send us something.
Yes. All right, good.
My tinfoil beard.
You have to shave off the beard, wrap it in 2 cutting boards, and mail it up to me in Canada.
Well, that's only if you win.
And see if it doesn't get flagged at the border.
The thing is, Jake, is he already has them scheduled, so that's what it is.
You're giving away the game.
Oh, this sucks.
No, but yeah, for sure. I think both of us should definitely try to have some colorists on both of our podcasts.
All right, yeah, it's a deal. It is officially, the game is afoot.
It's a race.
Yeah, it's an ace.
Oh man, we should get our listeners to help us with this. Start tagging them and stuff, and just be annoying so that they never get on the show.
I'm not sure that's how it works, Jesus.
You have to carry the next segment. I'm going to be busy sending emails. Give me a second here.
Hold on. We've got to finish this one before you go, Jordan.
Yeah, right.
So the first piece of artwork, which by the way is definitely a grail. Don't sell yourself short. That's pretty awesome. But since you said you have two, we're going to make you say two.
I do. Yes, I have a second one, which I do actually have a little show and tell beside me.
Ooh.
But geez, how do I start this story? I should have planned better. There's this other, I guess, cartoonist, artist, and writer duo, Ian Culbert or INJ Culbert, who has done a bunch of Lovecraft adaptations. And basically, because that's my bread and butter, that's what I'm super into, I pick up every like Lovecraft adaptation that I basically can find in comic form. So I picked up this random one that he did, like Shadow over Innsmouth or something like that. Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, maybe. And I loved it. And I wanted to buy more because he's done like 4 graphic novels, 4 volumes of like Lovecraft adaptations. He's done Mountains of Madness and Dream Quest and The King in Yellow, which isn't Lovecraft, but it's adjacent. So I reached out to him personally because I am an indie creator as well. I always try to maximize the amount of money that goes to creators. So I'll try to reach out to people and be like, what's the best way for me to buy this? Like, should I buy this on Amazon, which, I don't, or should I buy this from my shop? Or, do you have copies that you can personally send me and I could pay you like extra for or stuff like that? And he was like, oh, well, I mean, there's no better way in terms of like, I get the same cut from wherever you buy it. But if you buy from my local shop, which he is in like Nottingham, UK, then I can sign it for you or do a little sketch in the cover or something like that. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll reach out to that shop and I'll buy one right now. So I reach out to the shop. I buy a copy of whatever his next book was. They send it to me. It is sketched. And I think like a day or two after me and him had discussed that, I saw the shop now like promoting all over their feeds, Facebook and Twitter and wherever, was like, now every book you buy that's by Ian Culbert from our shop is going to be sketched in now, like promoting that as something thing. I was like, give me some credit, guys. Come on. At least a discount or something. I set that up for them. So they did. And I bought like his next book. And then I was going to the UK on like a vacation. Me and my brother went and toured like the entire country from the south to all the way up into Scotland and stuff. We just went on a road trip and I was in Nottingham and I went to that shop and that's when King in Yellow, his last one, had just come out into stores. So I was looking for that. And I think I had tweeted at both of them in a chat. I was like, I'm going to be in your town and I'm going to pick up like the best copy of King in Yellow, set it aside for me behind the counter. And they did. And I went and I was like, oh, I'm here to pick up that copy of King in Yellow that's sketched in, whatever. And they were like, oh, he sketched in all of the copies that we have, but we picked out like the best one and we set it aside for you. And they gave it to me. And I flipped through it. And I guess the quality of the sketch was so good that I didn't notice it was a sketch. I thought it was just like part of the art. And I was like, oh, this copy's not sketched in. And I was like, do you mind if I go look at the other ones on the shelf and like try to pick like a better one?
Oh.
And I go and I pick up like a different one and I bring it up and I'm like, yeah, I think I like this. And they're like, really? Like the other one was like way better than this one. I was like, are you sure? And I double check and I open it up. And at that point I realized like, oh, that's not in this book. That's actually a sketch. I was like, oh, no, you guys were absolutely right. So again, listeners, you are screwed, but I can hold this up for my friends Jake and Jesus here.
The King in Yellow.
Nice.
Which was like this full entire first.
Wait, that's the sketch?
All by marker. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow. I thought that was the first page.
Exactly. It looks like the title page.
That's awesome. That's dope.
The full thing was a sketch. So that is my other great.
Dude.
Man.
Again, they're both
awesome.
Pretty short stories, but together maybe there's something.
Look, I know what you did here. You put the bar low. So you can
set the expectations low.
Yeah, so you could over deliver.
that was an awesome. That is such a Jesus thing to do. But seriously though, that is amazing. Both of those stories, that book, that art, we might have to request a photo of that to post.
That,
because
absolutely.
I think the listeners should not be depraved of that.
Yeah, I agree. I will try to take a good picture as best as I can. I always have trouble taking pictures of my comics, like with glare and stuff is always a problem.
Yeah. Well, what
I
you
will
do is
my best for you.
you get a scanner and you flat that front page. You basically just rip the cover off and put it on a scanner.
I don't like where this is going, Jake.
It's for the benefit of the listeners, Jordan. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing those. Yeah, that was amazing. I think that you blew out our expectations, mostly because when we started, you set the expectations so low. I thought that you were going to be bringing on like a toad or something you had recently found. I don't know.
A signed frog.
Signed by me. Jordan, did you just find that frog and sign it? Please put the frog outside, Jordan.
That's my grail you're talking about, sir.
Don't talk about my grail like that.
Exactly.
Well, your grail is trying to hop away, is what's happening. No, but with that said, we can now officially move on to our final segment. Speculation. The speculation segment. Jordan, I know you're really, really looking forward to this segment because you told us before that you wanted us to start with this segment. You said, hey, guys, can we just start with, can we do that one first? Was what you asked. But no, we wanted to go in order. We don't change anything, even for guests as special as you, Jordan.
I'll live with it.
And Jesus, why don't you kick us off?
All right, man. So I've been, I don't know, talking about this for a couple of weeks, probably getting on Jake's nerves because as many of you may or may not know, I have 4 kids, right? I put that out there, 4 kids. I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and then we got twin 8-year-old boys. They're about to be 8. I think by the time this comes out, they might be 8 already. Their birthday's in July.
You don't know when their birthday is? Come on.
No, I don't know when this episode comes out. I don't know the date. I mean, is today Tuesday or Thursday? I don't even know, Jake. I don't know. My days run together. I have twin boys. So they recently started watching a cartoon, and I started remembering how I know all of this cartoon, and the reason why is because my older kids, the 14 and 13-year-old, also watched this cartoon, and so it's gone through 2 sets of age frames: a 14 and 13-year-old, and now 7-year-olds. And I said, hey, this is a pretty interesting cartoon. This is pretty, popular. Let's see if they came out with any comic books. And sure enough, they came out with comic books.
Teen Titans Go?
20 years ago. No, you would think that, but no. So I'm talking about none other than the Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh, okay.
So the Fairly Odd Parents. Yes, the Fairly Odd Parents. And it's just real interesting, man. I haven't been able, I know for a fact that there's the first time they came out in a book is a comic book is in 2002 on this book called Maximum Rocket Power. And it's one story in it, but I cannot find the cover of the book. And I don't know, there's nothing for sale on this book, but that's the first time they came out in a comic book in 2002.
All right.
20 years ago. So that's my spec, just because if it was good for my older kids, it's good for my younger kids. A lot of people know it. It's going to have that nostalgia factor eventually. And this is a 20-year-old book that I guarantee you, the first time they came out in anything is in a Nickelodeon magazine, which was earlier in 2002. But that's a magazine. You know how we are about magazines and whatever. So
hey, I like magazines.
The comic book came out in November. Right. So the magazine came out in spring. This came out in November. So that's the first time they came out. Again, the nostalgia factor, as my kids get older, as other people's kids get older, they've been out since 2002. They've been out for 20 years. So we even have some people that are a little bit older that grew up with the Fairly Odd Parents that will like them in comic books. So look out for that. Maximum Rocket Power from 2002, from November.
Maximum Rocket Power. The name sounds super familiar, but I really can't.
It's a Nickelodeon.
Rocket Power was another cartoon right around that time too.
Yeah, and it's from Nickelodeon. It's from Nickelodeon. And Nickelodeon Publishing is no longer in publishing, so it's also an extinct publisher. So it's not like they can redo reprints or anything of that nature. So it's just a unique book to me, and now I'm on a search for it. I'm on the lookout for it, but that's my spec.
Nice. Well, that sounds pretty cool. I definitely will. My LCS has a lot of weird stuff like that, and just a huge backlog. So I may go and ask around for you. I'll see what happens. Jordan, what do you have for this?
I
segment?
got almost nothing.
That's what you said about the last segment, and then you blew.
Well, yeah, he's doing it again. He's doing it again.
No, this time it's for real. I think this time it's for real. As Jake alluded to, this was like the segment that I was like, I don't know, like if I fit in here, like I don't speculate, but I don't know. So the only thing that I could come up with talking about in this segment wasn't any specific one issue or one thing that I think will be worthwhile, but just to sort of urge people who are collecting comics to consider self-publish and Kickstarters, crowdfunder campaigns, and stuff like that, because that's where the lowest print runs are going to be. That's where, I guess doubling down on lowest print runs. That's where, only 100 copies of this book are ever going to be printed. And, most of them might not ever be anything, but, some of them might be. Well, for example, my latest. Go ahead, Jake.
I was going to chime in complete agreement and maybe draw some comparisons to the world of comics we're in now, where there is a lot of self-published work happening now, and it feels like more than ever. But what it really reminds me of is the 1980s. Where there wasn't a lot of centralized indie publishers. There was just a lot of people trying to get their work seen. And then you wind up with a book like Savage Dragon's first appearance, Amazing Fantasy. I believe that was what it was called, with Eric Larson. And that, we talked about it. It's like 1,500 total copies in the entire world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that book is now incredibly valuable, and you have a character that has stood the test of time.
Graphic fantasy.
Thank you. So reiterating what you were saying, Jordan.
300 print run.
Yeah. Just correct everything I said. That's fine.
Well, stop being wrong, Jake. Easy solution.
Hey, I'm right until I'm wrong. That's for sure.
One of the things I wanted to mention was, not to like sell my own work or whatever, but just for the sake of this conversation, right, is that we're talking about these Kickstarter books. The last anthology that you mentioned, I did, Dead Work Anthology, that has a bunch of my stuff in it, was just on Kickstarter. I think we printed 1,000 or 1,100 copies of that book, and it's a collection of 22 or 23 short comics by like all these different creators. I think like 3 of them are already picked up by publishers, and they're going to become like full series or full graphic novels or whatever. And the first appearances of all of those characters, if they ever become anything valuable, is in this tiny little book that has 1,000 copies printed ever.
Nice. Yeah.
So
yes.
I think crowdfunding is sort of the way to pick up really niche stuff that you can pick them up so cheap. Like, people set their goals so low because they're so desperate to get funded. I've done it. I've ran my own Kickstarters. I've set my stuff so low just to beg people, please back this, please. It's barely covering my costs. So you can pick up books really cheap that might maybe end up being something in the future.
So 2 things on that real quick. You mentioned that, like, what comes to mind is something like, one of your guests that you had with Commander Rao. Right. That
Absolutely.
got picked up.
Fellhound, yeah.
Yeah, that got picked up, and that has a huge cult following, and it could be, in the future worth something, right? Because it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just this snowball that's happening with that character.
That was like couple hundred copies on Kickstarter, and then it became a Scout Comics, and now, like, who knows what Scout's going to do with it? I'm sure they're trying to farm that IP out somewhere for a movie studio, or it would fit really well for anime, I think.
They're going to bury it. Scout's just going to bury it in the ground, and they're going to sit on it. They won't they don't want to make any money off.
But yeah, those are characters that could go somewhere, which, again, first appearance, if you have that initial print run from a couple hundred Kickstarter copies, like, there you go.
So, and the little piggyback on that is, we talked about this last week, where it's hard to find, these indie Kickstarters that are good, that are solid, absolutely. And so, and people don't realize that a lot of these books are getting picked up, or, later on, and, or maybe even, go directly to the creator to, put the IP into something else, whether it's a television show, anime, whatever. So I think there's a gap there. And then the second thing is, the conversation I have around lower, funding goals, right? Like there was a conversation around that I told Jake where somebody was saying, don't put the funding lower because it makes it difficult for other people to break even or whatever. Like you have to have $6,000, $7,000 for funding to just break even. And that might be true for some people. It might be not for others.
You need a lot more than that in my experience.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's the Wild West with the Kickstarter, right? Like that's basically what it is. And what Jake was alluding to in the 80s, that's exactly what it was. I mean, Jake was talking about Savage Dragon, but the biggest one is Ninja Turtles, right? They had 3,000 copies in their apartment. And, some of those were all damaged too, because I mean, that's just how it was. They were selling it out of their trunk. So it's the Wild West with Kickstarter. So I guess the conversation is that going to get, more centralized? Is it going to get more, what is the word that I'm looking for? Not necessarily centralized, but more,
appropriated.
No, the word that I'm
gentrified.
No, it's, you remember those people came out with like a script thing that everybody wants to do the script this way and people got upset.
Like standardized.
Standardized.
See,
they're going to be more standardized in the future for Kickstarter to be able to continue to thrive for the indie community.
I think yes. I think we're seeing that already with a lot of indie publishers. Something like Boom is now bringing like new projects to Kickstarter first before they. Yeah.
What you'll see is you'll see more organizations, more publishers
trying to get in on that Kickstarter action.
Yeah, bringing a strategy to Kickstarter, and what you'll probably see the fallout of that from the individuals who are trying to do their own Kickstarter. They will either see what has worked for the other publishers doing it, or they will adapt based on that. And because if those are working, they're going to have to react and to try to make their book or their comic more relevant or more successful when it comes to Kickstarter. I know that we've talked to Tim Seeley on the show, who is a very well-established writer and artist, and yet he still puts a lot of projects, runs through Kickstarter, because it is a good way for him as an individual to get to circumvent some of the publishing side of things and make a little bit more money himself.
Which is sort of what I opened the show with in terms of like my own books. Is like, yeah, I don't want a publisher necessarily to own everything and distribute the book they wanted and cut it up into single issues or whatever. The creator should own that and get the full profits from it as much as they can.
Yeah, no disagreement at all. This is a really, really great segue into my speculation for the week. And that is to go from the most indie of indie comics to speculate on a character that I've been telling everybody about for an entire year. I've been telling everybody Jesus, we've been doing the show for just about a year now, and I'm pretty sure we speculated on this book, this character, almost in the first episode. Maybe it was like episode 3. I'm not entirely certain when we started talking about it, but I am talking about Hercules. Now, I do not have any inside information. I have not seen Thor yet because it literally just came out the day we're recording this. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm telling you right now, okay, go get some Hercules books. Hercules debuted. Journey into Mystery, annual number 1 is the
Return of Jima.
Yeah, the Return of Jima. And then I would also look at Champions number 1 and Hercules number 1. Champions number 1 is 1975. Tony Isabella is the writer. Gil Kane is art. Great artwork. Great
cool cover. Yeah.
And then Hercules number 1, not as great of a cover as Champions number 1, but it's the 1982 first solo series, art and story by Bob Layton. And again, this is not a spoiler of any kind. I honestly have no inside information, but what I do know is we have Zeus. We know that Zeus is a big part of the movie. Russell Crowe, they're not putting Russell Crowe in a scene for 5 minutes. They're just not going to do that to a guy like that. And
I don't know. Say that to Matt Damon in the last Thor movie.
Well, that's some sort of inside secret joke with him and Taika Waititi. I don't understand, but it's hilarious. But with that, I think Hercules is the next natural step for the MCU. And I'm telling everybody, this is your last and absolute final warning, because I'm pretty sure after this latest Thor film, I think it's those books are going to go way into the stratosphere, especially the first appearance, especially the Jima. So we've said it enough. But Jesus, did you really think I was going to do the opening week of Thor and not talk about Hercules? Come on.
You know, I thought about it. I was taking a picture of it right now too, because I think I'm getting ready to sell it on my end.
You're selling the Jima, huh?
Yeah, you know, cash in on the spec. I mean, at some point you got to cash in on it. And I think this is a decent time. It's not the greatest, but I think it's a decent time to do so. I mean, again, we've been talking about it for a year, dude. You know, we've been talking about this book for a year. It's a warm blanket book.
We had an entire Jima episode. We had Taco
Bears with the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears.
The Bears. So, but yeah, man, funny. I mean, it's warranted, you know, and it's already from when we started talking about it to now. I mean, it's gone up like, I don't know, like 150%, 200%.
I don't want to say that we're influencers. I don't want to say that. So I won't.
Don't look at me. I ain't saying it.
Well, that is my speculation for the week, and I certainly would recommend it. But you know what? This episode's not coming out for like 6 more days. So by the time it comes out, maybe it'll be old news and we will be behind the game. But if that's the case, we were still ahead of the game because we said it like a year ago. So, you know.
Oh, this is spec inception now. Okay, I got it.
It's specception. I think that's a word. All right. That closes us out for this episode of Spec Tales. Jordan, honestly, tons of fun. You didn't think that you were going to come in and rock it with your Grail Tale or your speculation.
No, I did not. No.
And yet you did. And I also am walking away from this episode with multiple books I now have to go and read, which is also a sign of a great guest. So
for sure, please have more people read Friday. Like, I want to talk about it. It's so good.
I so tell you what, I'm gonna. I wrote it down. I will probably be picking that up along with a couple of other books, including Hellcraft and Death Kanji. So, but I will read all of them, and I will bombard your inbox on Twitter with my thoughts and ideas.
I am greatly looking forward to it.
Amazing. But that said, I know we've talked a little bit about your website and we've talked about you being on Twitter, but why don't we just recap? Where would people be able to find you?
Well, people would be able to find my books, my online store at jordanpatrickfinn.com. People can find my podcast, Creators on Comics, which is partnered with Platform Comics. So you could find it at platformcomics.com, or you could just search up Creators on Comics wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on, all over the place. And I am very active, I would say, on Twitter at Jordan P. Finn, because Jordan Patrick Finn is a little too long for Twitter's character limit. And don't find me anywhere else. I've had this influx of people adding me on Instagram.
Hey, I almost
keep having to decline people, be like, I'm sorry, this is not my comics business. This is like personal, like family kind of page. So please find me on Twitter at Jordan P. Finn if you're trying to reach out to me.
So as you heard it, everybody, please go and try adding him on Instagram. He enjoys declining.
I just feel bad. I want to declare that publicly. Is like, I'm sorry, you people, that I'm like not letting you follow me. I really want to reach out to all of you. I want to talk to all of you. I want to be friends, but only on the right place.
Yeah, find him on Twitter, right? He's he's welcome to talking to anybody. Head over to Twitter and definitely go check out his podcast as well. It's a hell of a lot of fun. He does a really good job putting that together every other week. So what'd you say? Every Monday, every 2 weeks?
Second Monday.
Every second Monday.
That's correct.
Nice. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of Spec Tales. Thank you all for listening. If you'd like to get a hold of me and Jesus, you can find us on Twitter at SpecTalesPod. You can find us on Instagram at spec_tales_podcast. And you can always email us spectalespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for everybody listening. Have a good week.